Hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And my card for this week's Color Throwdown Challenge. For those that aren't aware, the Color Throwdown Challenge, it's a weekly challenge. There's a group of us that participate in it, and it's open to everyone. It's just for fun. I will have a link to the challenge in my blog post, which is linked in the description box below the video. And honestly, this one threw me for a loop. I just was struggling with the colors. So my first go-to with that is always florals. I can almost make any color challenge work with florals. And then 2, add gold as an accent. It always helps. Can't go wrong with it, in my opinion. So I did that. And then I used the Iceland Poppies wafer die set again. I've already done a couple videos with this die set. I love it. They're really cute. I added a bird this time too. Stuck a bird on it. So I also used a distressed spritz. We do some splattering, all the fun things. So, as always, links to all the supplies that I used to make this card are also in the description box below. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links, end up placing an order, I get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. It's what helps pay the bills, keeps the channel going. And then, yeah, let's get into making this card. As this is another die cut focused card, I did most of my die cutting off screen before I started filming because especially with this, it was repetitive. I die cut these little poppies multiple times, and I then decided I wanted all the centers to be cut from matte gold cardstock. And I've talked about this in many videos. My specialty cardstocks, I save every little tiny piece. My gold, my glitter cardstocks, all those things. Those ones especially, but I save almost all my scraps because they come in handy. And then for something like this, where it's a die set where all the dies are on one, I'm not going to die cut, large pieces of a specialty cardstock or even just regular cardstock, let's be honest, to get one little element. All I wanted was the flower centers. So to make that work, I just put it face up, and then I was taking just little itty bitty pieces of my matte gold cardstock and placing it right on top of what I wanted die cut. Hopefully that makes sense. And then I am using the new Spellbinders little Scout, little baby die cut machine. I showed this in a live recently. I loves it. I love little die cut machines. Do I have more than one? Of course I do. They come in handy, especially when I'm using small wafer dies and like die cutting multiple times. Having the little die cut machine when they first came on the market many years ago, I was like, really, do we actually need this? And then I got one, and I was like, it ended up being one of my most used machines, tools, whatever. Because yeah, when you got lots of little die cuts, or just you need to die cut one little sentiment, it was like so much easier and faster than using the big machine. Anyway, so that's how I did all the little flower centers with just little scraps of cardstock. Set all that aside. And then the actual pieces for the Iceland poppies, I die cut from Simon's Smooth White cardstock. And this time I was using my brain, and I tested my blending brush first. I was using my blending brush, and I always just kind of clean between colors on just a cloth. And normally I don't care if, there ends up being like a blend of colors in the brush that goes onto the cardstock. I don't care. But when I'm doing something like the color challenge and I'm aiming for certain colors, I want it to be a little more true. So thankfully I had another scrap of cardstock, and I tested my brush, and I still had a lot of orange ink in it. So removed most of that. And now I'm using Simon's cheeky Pawsitively saturated ink. Very simple blending here. Very quick, very simple. I really like this look of going from the ends, like the tips of the petals, toward the center with the ink and leaving everything else white. I talked about this. In fact, I think it was this exact same die set that I used it the last time I used it, and it was the same idea because I was inspired by the packaging and that's how the color was. And I was like, I just, for whatever reason, my brain wouldn't think that way. Like I always go from the center out, especially with florals. That's just how I see it. And I really like this look. It just gives it that little something. So I did the same thing. I used the cheeky ink on those flowers, and then I used Simon's Marine ink on the rest. And then I've got this is the Exquisite Hummingbird. This was in the same release as those little Iceland poppies. He's been sitting here just waiting. I love hummingbirds, like the actual hummingbirds. I think they are just the cutest little creatures ever. And I love hummingbird wafer dies. I've used other ones in the past as well. They're all my favorites. I love them all because they're just cute. So this one, I'm going to go a little backwards with assembling him. I'll get to that in a second. So all those funny pieces at the top, those are the stems for the poppies. So everything I was sticking to one of my grip mats, this is the Altenew one, to kind of hold things in place while I slap all the ink on. And then this gray ink is EARL, positively saturated ink. So getting that into place. And then for my little hummingbird, I'm going to combine the gray and the blue because I'm staying true to the color challenge. So I'm going to use those two and just kind of blend them together. And there are more pieces for this hummingbird, but again, there's a method to the madness. So these are the white cardstock pieces that I'm going to blend the color on. And then I realized for once that I was off camera. So I shifted the mat upwards so that you guys could see what I was doing. And yeah, just slapped on the color. Nothing too crazy here yet. So once I got all that into place, I'm going to set this aside first, and then I'm going to assemble all my little, my florals, which super simple. You layer the two pieces together, and then you add the little center. This is where my embellishment wand comes in really handy. Off to the side, I have my little pile of all the little gold flower centers that I die cut. And yeah, you adhere them together, add the center, and then you add the funny little shaped piece that's the petal that's kind of facing us. And that's it. It's so simple. Love it. I don't know. It's funny for me because way back in the day when wafer dies were becoming more and more of a thing, I was just like, oh, these are time consuming. I'm not really a fan. I would rather stamp. And now it's like assembling die cuts and adding color to them is one of my favorite things to do. It always takes me a while to catch on. Anyway, same thing with the other flower because there's two different like shaped flowers in this little set. And same thing. It's 2 layers. You add the center and then you add the final little last petal, and you've got a little flower. I didn't add the stems yet. I'll do that later. And then for my little hummingbird, I wanted to add like pieces that I die cut from matte gold, but I'm not going to adhere it yet because I want to add some distress spritz to make my little hummingbird super sparkly and fabulous. And I don't like using things like shimmer mist, etc., splatter over cardstock like this matte gold because of the coating. Like the chance of it ever drying is slim to none, or it would just take forever. So I'm going to leave those pieces off for now. So I use the packaging to get the wing in the right spot. Does it actually matter? Not really, but I just like the way he was laid out. So got most of them adhered, and then I'm using weathered wood distress spritz. And this is going to look hideous at first. Once it dries, it'll look great. But right now it's like, oh, she just destroyed this. Look at that splotchy mess. It's fine. It's fine. It's going to look good. So I spray that on there. And then it dries fairly quickly. You definitely don't, or at least I'm saying in my experience, you don't want to overdo it with the spritz. If you like add more than the cardstock can handle, that's where you're going to find that it's not like sealed in. It's going to start like swiping off, that sort of thing. Like always, don't lick the artwork. But people do ask, like, do you need a sealant? I've never had a problem, but I don't add tons. And this is coming from the person with heavy hands who adds tons of everything. But anyway, this stuff doesn't technically need a sealant. If you find that it's wiping off, you might have been adding too much, or you have way too much, inks, etc. underneath that have saturated. That's the only thing I can really think of. Because yeah, it stays in place. But also I haven't licked it. So take that with a grain of salt. So anywho, I die cut a scrap to get the little black piece for his eye. You can always add a little gem if you don't like dealing with, really fiddly little die cuts, but that took 2 seconds. And then I added those 2 pieces, his little beak and the end of his tail that I die cut from the matte gold. And there I've got my little hummingbird. And at the end, I will use my flashlight to show how sparkly he is. And he's just fabulous. So I set everything aside. And then I'm using, again, the CZ Design Bad Day Good Vibes stamp set, and my favorite stamp from the set again, because it is so perfect. The Sending a Paper Hug sentiment. I love it. Love it. Love it. So I had some, this is Smoke cardstock. I used my anti-static powder tool on it. I stamped the sentiment with clear embossing ink and then coated it with Simon's gold embossing powder. Tapped off the excess, melted that with my heat tool, and then I'll remove the excess anti-static powder with my microfiber cloth. And then I'm going to use the coordinating wafer die to die cut this sentiment. I'm going to tape it into place so that it doesn't, move when I run this through my little die cut machine. And then I'll die cut it. And this is what I was talking about earlier with just a little die cut machine. It's so much faster, to use a little machine than it is the great big normal size plates. So it's got its place. Do you need all the things? No. I do. Anyway, for my background, I've used this at least once or twice before. Any background die would work for this. This is my kind of go-to with any full plate die cut. I really like to do them tone on tone. Of course, you can totally mix it up, do different colors, all the things. Like there's so many looks you can get with, just a background wafer die. But because this was a color challenge, I want to keep it tone on tone and simple. So I die cut this is the mini fab floral plate, and I die cut it from white cardstock, and I adhered it to my card base, which is also white cardstock. So it's, you get that pattern, you get a bit of texture, but it's not super busy. And then I adhere the florals, and I'm just going to have them like kind of cascading down the side of my card here, just working from the top and working my way down. And yeah, I've sped this up in editing. I don't move this quickly ever. And like I always say when I mention this, I only wish I could move this quickly when I'm cleaning the house. Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't it be wonderful? Anyway, adhered all the little pieces as I, made my way down here, and then trimmed off the excess with my scissors. And then of course we're going to add a bit of splatter. I wasn't gonna, but then I was like, yeah, of course I'm gonna. So I'm going to use my Gonzai Tombi Starry colors this time. Lately I've been using my Yasutomo Pale Gold, which is definitely more of a matte finish. This one is the more shiny, metallic finish, which you can tell there I have hit pan on this one because I have used this for years. I love it. So added a little bit of water to it, swirled that up really good with my fan brush. I put my card back into my splat box, and then I added splatter just over the florals, like just on this side of the card to give it that little extra something. And then I let that dry, which didn't take very long. And I had kept a couple of the die cut florals off to the side to put on the inside of the card. And then I'm going to stamp the little companion sentiment from that same Bad Day Good Vibes stamp set. That's another reason why I love it, because I love the Hope You Feel It sentiment, because the outside will say Sending a Paper Hug, and then you open the card and it says Hope You Feel It. Love it. Kathy Zielski is just chef's kiss, So I stamped the sentiment with that EARL ink, and then I adhered my little florals to the inside. Same thing, flipped it over, trimmed off the excess, found a black smudge on the back of the card, which I'll remove later. Are we surprised? No. Anyway, popped on my little hummingbird with some foam squares, so he's, flying in place. And then I'm going to use a foam square and some liquid glue to adhere the die cut sentiment. And then you could always be done here, but of course I'm going to add more embellishment because one, it's sitting, I literally don't put these away. They're the Stay Gold confetti from Simon Says Stamp. These just sit on my desk because you guys see me use them on every other card for the most part. So same thing, I kind of sprinkled those throughout the florals and then adhered them into place with little dabs of craft tacky glue and just sticking them into place with my little embellishment wand, and that finished off the card. So I'll show you guys the super sparkle shimmery goodness, because as always, like, photos and video doesn't do it justice. So I'll turn the flashlight on so you can see how sparkly my little hummingbird is. Oh, isn't it so fun? And yeah, it looks way better once it's dry. When you first spray it on, sometimes it's like, oh dear. But yeah, it's all good. We're good. So that was the card for the color challenge. All the links to all the things will be in the description box below the video for anyone who's interested. You can just expand it, check it out. And yeah, as always, thank you all so very much for watching my video. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in supporting me over on Patreon, the link to that is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!